Yes! What is up, everybody? It's great to see you, and honestly, I am overwhelmed by your support in the comments. What? I knew that you guys love me. I didn't know you loved me that much, so the feeling is mutual. I tried to get in there and answer every single comment that I could, but there were so many, I was like, man, my ego quota has been matched. You know, I have a quota that I gotta hit where I'm feeling good about myself. Everybody has it, but I've got one. Within 10 comments, I was like, yo, my bucket is full today. Anyway, let's get into this. I wanna talk about Chelsea. And you guys know that I'm not a Chelsea supporter, but let's pretend that I am one. Because, and sometimes it's hard to admit this, I'm a Newcastle supporter, and there's just not much to say about them. They're not good. Because when you're a Newcastle supporter, you got no hope. You got zero. And when Steve Bruce is the manager of said club, you've got even less hope. And when Mike Ashley's the owner, your hope is just minus. You're below hope. There's a hope level where you have zero, and we're below that because we have a terrible owner and a bang average manager. I'm just happy, or I will be happy, if we don't get relegated. That is the biggest thing. That's the only thing that I'm hoping for this club to achieve. Thankfully, this season, I believe there are 3 worse teams than Newcastle in the league. Also, I just want to say to the Chelsea fans, and I know I'm going to be a plastic one here really quick, but I am going to solve your problems, so don't you worry. I just feel like you guys are entitled. You've had some of the best managers in the world manage your club since Roman Abramovich has become owner. You guys have won trophies. Multiple competitions in Europe, domestically, you have done it. And now you feel like because of the money that you've spent, you automatically we just hand it to you. Well, it doesn't work that way. You have to earn it. You have to fight for it. And we're not seeing that on a consistent basis. But I don't feel bad for you. You guys, you're so privileged. Must be nice, right? Because me, as a Newcastle fan, I have to suffer week in and week out watching my team only have 15% possession at home against Sheffield United, West Brom, and can't even beat Fulham at home. Fulham's trash, dude. They're bad, and it hurts. I didn't want to make this about Newcastle. Let's get back to Chelsea. And here are the problems that I think Chelsea are running into right now. And the first one is they have zero identity, which isn't really a surprise, right? Let's be honest. You signed 6 players this past transfer window, and all 6 can be competing for a starting spot in the starting 11, and I feel like that's just going to add to the issue of trying to decide and figure out who you want to be and how you want to play. And I really feel like Frank Lampard had Timo Werner as the number 9 to start, realized that maybe that wasn't his best place, even though he was scoring a few goals and having a lot of opportunities. Olivier Giroud, Tammy Abraham up top, and now Timo Werner can go out wide, which maybe isn't his best spot. I think he needs to be closer centrally to the number 9 striker, and then find his areas to maybe stretch to the defense or pick the ball up in front of the back 4 and then run at them, which I think he's very good at, is running at back 4s and running in general. He's just a good runner with or without the ball, right? Either it creates space for somebody else or it creates space for himself. But the problem is, since he's been out wide, he has scored 0 goals in his last 11 matches in all competitions. And that is not very good. So I feel like the identity is a little bit all over the place because Frank Lampard thought he had his best 11. And I was actually saying that Frank Lampard, man, he figured it all out. He was pressing all the right buttons. But now that they're hitting this tough stretch of games where they haven't won very many, 1 out of their last 6, maybe they need to figure out what their real identity is. They still haven't beaten anybody in the league in the top half of the table. What is happening? How is that even possible? They have so much talent in their team. But again, I think there's a lot of tinkering going on, and maybe he doesn't have all the pieces. So yes, they've solved some problems, but they still haven't figured out their best thing, and I think that lends itself to a lack of identity, which then leads me into problem number 2. They got no leadership. Even though I admire Cesar Azpilicueta as a captain, he's just not playing a lot. Reece James has been very good in the outside back position. You also have Ben Chilwell, who looks like a bit of a leader, but he's still new to the team. You're bringing in Mendy, a goalkeeper who should be a vocal leader. He obviously is still trying to find his way, but he's making some mistakes that aren't, they only have 1 clean sheet in their last 6 games that maybe are not what they thought, because Mendy was very good when he first came in. Zuma's been very good as a center back. Thiago Silva, though I feel like Zuma's a little bit quiet. At times, he can be, even though I feel like he's the most vocal of the back 4 when Azpilicueta is not in the team. And then Thiago Silva, I think he's just having some trouble with the language barrier. Jorginho does look like he's vocal, but again, I don't think Jorginho's the best fit for the team moving forward. Everybody seems kind of meek. They need a player in their team, especially in the spine of the team, that will hold other people accountable. Now, I don't know how you feel about Sergio Ramos, who, as we know, dabbles in the dark arts of defending, but he is a leader, and he gets the most of everybody around him. He elevates the game of his teammates because he holds them accountable. He holds them to a higher standard than maybe they hold themselves. And for me, that lends itself to issue number 3. There's no chemistry. And I feel like that's because Super Frank Lampard, as I mentioned before, and I still trust him, by the way, I feel like everybody that supports Chelsea should back Frank Lampard. You got to give him some time. Last season, he inherited a team, didn't have any transfer window, and then he gets his team and gets up. Anyway, I back Super Frank Lampard. I'm getting away from what I wanted to say a little bit. No chemistry, no identity, no leadership is going to lead to some problems. Okay, I know I mentioned this before or alluded to it before, but playing players out of position is really hurting Chelsea. And I'm going to use Kai Havertz, one of their big signings, one of the best young players in the world, as an example. In 4 months, while wearing this jersey, the Blues jersey, he has played in 5 different positions. And last season for Bayer Leverkusen, he only played 3 positions over 9 months, okay, mainly as an attacking mid. But when he had to play up top, he scored 8 goals in those 8 games. But if you continue to move him around, how can he ever establish a rhythm, right? I just don't understand the methodology behind that. And I know that Frank Lampard is thinking more than just Kai Havertz, right? If he's not playing well and then Hakim Ziyech comes in and starts to make a difference, which he was prior to getting hurt, it's tough. You're like, well, I want to get Ziyech in and Havertz on the field at the same time, and maybe Werner, and Poole is sick, and Mason Mount, who is Frank Lampard's son. He plays them all the time. Sometimes it's just better to play players in their best position. Okay, hold on, timeouts. I want to bring up Timo Werner as well, and it makes me wonder why Bayern Munich, who are known for poaching all of the best young talent on their opposing teams in the Bundesliga, which is a very smart transfer policy, by the way, why did they just let Kai Havertz and Timo Werner go so easily? Did they know something that Chelsea did not? Something to think about. And speaking of Timo Werner and playing out of position, let's use him again as an example, just like Kai Havertz. He has played 16 times at left wing for Chelsea out of 23 games, and he has 9 goal contributions in that time, okay? And obviously he's in the midst of a very big slump. But when he played up top, which was 7 times, he has 6 goal contributions. So, maybe it's best, like I said about Kai Havertz, to play players in their best position and let them flourish. Anyway, we've talked about the problems. Now let's talk about how I think Chelsea and Frank Lampard can fix this. Okay, so hear me out. Hope you're sitting down, or if you're driving, buckle those seatbelts. Hopefully you aren't driving, you're just in the passenger. Whatever you're watching this on the toilet, whatever you like to do, I've got it figured out, okay? Less is more, simplicity is the key, and Frank Lampard just needs to pick a philosophy and stick with it. If it doesn't work for one game, it's okay, that happens. But stick with it so the players know how to build off of it. They know how to grow within that particular system. If you keep changing the formation, a la Manchester United, who, if I can use their Champions League group stages as an example, they went with a 4-4-2 diamond, a 4-3-3 twice, and a 3-5-2 twice. All those 3 formations twice, and then they blew it, and they got knocked out. They finished 3rd in a group that they were cruising in after the first two match days, and now they're in the Europa League. And it's because there's a lot of tinkering happening there with that manager. That's a different video. We're here to talk about Chelsea at the particular moment. But I wanted to use that as an example of what are they building off of? They're learning a few things about a few players, specifically Fred, that when he's on the field, they're a little bit better. He does a lot of the thankless work, but how do the players kind of grow from a particular system? And right now, Chelsea doesn't have that because they keep tinkering. And I'm gonna bring up this example from the 2014 World Cup, okay? I lived it intimately with the US men's national team. Now, whether you think this is a like-for-like story, I don't know. I don't know if it is or isn't, but I feel like it's relevant. And I'm gonna say it because there was a CDM for the US, Kyle Beckerman. Whatever you think about Kyle Beckerman, if you're aware of him as a player, love him, hate him, whatever, it doesn't really matter. I love him, but everybody has their own opinion. It's not about that. But he sat in front of our back 4 for the group stages. And as a center back, I knew the passing lanes that he liked to block. Well, if I was playing, I wasn't. You get comfortable with a CDM that's in front of you. Also, when you have the ball, where's this guy gonna post up and help you kind of get out of difficult situations when you have the ball? Where does he play out of it? Everybody gets comfortable with that particular position on the field because they help you transition, and then defensively, they're doing a good job of making things predictable for center backs and runs and passing lanes and all that good stuff, okay? But the manager of the US at the time, Jurgen Klinsmann, decided to not play Kyle Beckerman against Belgium in the round of 16 because Jeff Cameron had played in the Premier League against Marwan Fellaini a few times. That was his reasoning. So you put Jeff Cameron in, who I think is a good player, but he's not a guy that holds. He's more of a box-to-box guy. He fancies himself going forward. And then what happened? We gave up more chances than any other team in the history of the World Cup. That's when Tim Howard was making saves all over the place, made more saves than anybody. It was crazy because all those passing lanes were open. The center backs didn't know where the space was or where they should. They got decimated. And we were lucky to only lose that game 2-1 in extra time, by the way. Was it extra time, the 90th minute, whatever? The game was a lot closer than it should have been given the amount of chances that we created or didn't create. But I use that because all of a sudden, if you start taking out players in different formations and putting them out of, you're never going to create any harmony. You're not building towards anything. And I feel like Frank Lampard just needs to have something and stick with it. And if the players can fit into that system, great. And if they can't, then you got to move them along, which actually brings me to my next one. Stop with the luxury buys. Kai Havertz, you didn't need him. You had the players on your team. Ziyech is a good player. Christian Pulisic's a good player. Mason Mount, you know you want to play him because, like I said, he's your son. He is his son, by the way. I mean, he plays him all the time, no matter what. And I like Mason Mount, but he just gets so many more chances than everybody else. You got Hudson-Odoi, who's emerging as well. Abraham and Giroud, they're going to score goals, of course. You got Jorginho. You had all the players that you needed. You need to focus more defensively, get a new goalkeeper. You got all those. You could have saved the money on Havertz. You didn't need him, and now you got this really frustrated player because he's not playing in his normal position. Anyway, they got to stop with the luxury buys. I know they're going to go in the January transfer window and think, you don't need to solve any more problems. You got all the players that you need. You got to get everybody on the same page, and it goes back to sticking to that one philosophy and writing it out. Okay, maybe then you change your formation. I look at the other clubs, City, Liverpool. They have identities, and yes, sometimes they have to make adjustments based on injuries or whatever it may be. But they never lose that core identity and philosophy and methodology that they have, and Chelsea definitely doesn't have that, and neither does Manchester United or Arsenal, by the way. I think Tottenham does for the most part. Anyway, that's a different video as well. Honestly, let's look at this. Ziyech, Werner, and Kai Havertz cost $155 million. Olivier Giroud has more goals than all of them combined. You gotta have the system, and you gotta have players that fit that system that you want. Instead, I feel like Chelsea right now are just like, let's just buy as many talented players as we can and Frank will figure it out. That's not the way forward if this team really wants to have success. And that's it. It's simple, right? But you have to have that courage and that confidence to pick one thing and move forward there. And when things aren't going well, you still gotta stay true to that. And that is the real test of your philosophy and methodology and your plan going forward. You can't just keep adjusting just because things aren't going right just once and you have a bad game and I don't know what I want to do with my life and all that stuff, and then all social media and everybody's got it all solved like this guy right here, but I do have it solved. Keep it simple, Frank. So if you guys want to pass this on to him, I would be much obliged. I'm happy to join the staff if they need me, or any staff out there. You know where to find me. Right here on this YouTube channel, solving problems. It's what I do. So thank you guys for watching. As always, hit that like and subscribe button if you're feeling up to it. And I love you. Thank you again for all the great comments. I look forward to jumping in again today, and I'll see you soon. Later.